Fugue offers two massive things: independence in team compositions and flexibility for your roster. In this video, we will teach you in a super easy to understand way how to get the best value out of Fugue, both now and in the long run. There are three main things that I need you to know about Fugue's kit that makes her extremely special. The first thing is her talent allows all teammates to do super break to weakness broken enemies. No caveats, no cooldowns, just her being on field gives team-wide super break ability. As if that wasn't enough, her talent also allows all enemy weaknesses to now be able to be broken twice, with the second break bar being much easier to break than the first initial instance. This allows actually a very special comp because no other character in the game currently does this, and able to capitalize on your unit's high break effect state to like dish out twice in terms of breaking the instances to do a lot more damage as well. Now third, Fugue's skill allows you to select one ally and buff their break effect, but that's not even the best part, it gives them a colorless breaking ability, meaning they will reduce toughness regardless of enemies' elemental weaknesses. Kind of like an inverse Silver Wolf if you think about it. Although, of course, this toughness breaking ability is slightly less than the usual, but such, I guess, is the price of power. When this ally, of course, with your skill that you select attacks, Fugue also reduces the enemy defenses, making her a very well-rounded support in terms of buffing, enabling, and debuffing. Like a hybrid between a Nihility and Harmony character, really. Other than those, as if that wasn't enough, her ult also deals great amounts of damage and is colorless as well, meaning it ignores enemies' elemental weaknesses. One thing to note, and this is probably the most important thing about the downside, her kit's biggest restriction is that she needs 220 break effect to fully maximize her major trace, which buffs teammates' break effect. So that's a key number for builds to keep in mind. Skill priority for Fugue. Here, you want to go first for talent as it increases the team's super break damage, and then proceed on to your second priority, which is going to be the skill, where it increases the defense breaking multipliers. At the same time, the ally that you choose, you increase the break effect buffing, so very solid supportive ones with talent and skill. Third priority is slightly further away. This is the ultimate, of course, which helps you basically increase a little bit more damage in the overall kit, and the lowest priority is her basic attack. If you don't want to level it up at all, I think it's fine as well if you want to save some resources. Best relics for Fugue in Honkai Star Rail. So let's talk about it first. The most important thing that I want you to know is she needs to hit a 220% break effect multiplier. If you can hit it, you are able to proc all of her kit very well. And the stuff that helps you do it the best is anything with the 2-piece break effect line, 16% here. And for example, Watchmaker Dream Machinations, Thief of Shooting Meteor, and of course the Iron Cavalry against the Scorch. A combination 2-piece of all of them will help you hit the threshold easier, but for those of you with her signature, or maybe you have really good gear and don't mind spending a lot of time in the Iron Cavalry mines, the best in slot for her will be Iron Cavalry against the Scorch. This one is great because although you lose 16% out from your other 2-piece, especially if you hit the threshold already, doesn't really matter too much, but you get a very nice damage increase for her, which when you are 150% or higher, which you will be because you want to hit the 220, you get some defense ignore, and if you're at 250 or higher, your super break damage also ignores, which she also does for her own individual damage. So fantastic for herself, individual damage. And the problem I just want to mention real quickly is this 250% break effect over here. Fugue, without her signature, you might find it a bit tougher to hit that 250% unless you have other team members like buffing break effect for her and stuff like that. But generally, 250 is a bit trickier and you'll be spending a long time in the Iron Cavalry mines to find a nice 4-piece with break effect, nice break effect subs. If you have it, awesome. But for those of you who don't, my recommendation is don't stress too much. Just go with a 2-piece because at the end of the day, she is mainly used for buffing her team doing damage rather than her own individual damage. Some other options, of course, that you can go for if you maybe want a bit more alternatives as well. I think you can go with a 2-piece break effect as well as a 2-piece speed. These are good alternatives if you already hit the thresholds and you don't intend to go for individual damage. You maybe want to increase her rotations a bit more. Alternatively, the lowest priority probably is like 4-piece Thief of Shooting Meteor. If you anticipate her breaking the most out of your whole team, you can get a good amount of energy refund to help her just keep bursting more of her ultimate to do a little bit more damage on the side. Now, before we jump into the 2-piece, let's talk about the main stats over here. that I'll be focusing on. For the body, I think is probably one is the easiest one. This is going to be effect hit rate. Gives you good amounts of landing your debuffs, which is really, really solid for her. If you already have, or that you realize that you don't really need too much effect hit rate, maybe you're running a light cone with a lot of it for some reason as well, you can run with HP defense to make her a bit more chunky to survive more damage. I think that's fine too, but effect hit rate generally for most of you watching this video, I think is the preferred option. Next one, of course, is speed. This is very, very easy. Go for speed. The more speed that she has, the faster her rotations are as well, meaning she can hit once or twice a little bit more, get more energy, and also poke them for a bit more super break damage. Out of all of them, get some energy refund for herself. I think it's quite solid overall, rather than all of them. Now, let's go on to the 2-piece, which is probably a bit trickier than the 4-piece sets. And let's start off first with my top recommendation. I think for any one of you watching this video who don't have like a lot of break effect in excess, Thalia Kingdom of Banditry is the path of least resistance. The 2-piece gives you 16% as well, which is like another 2-piece from your 4-piece as well. So you got tons of break effect just by stacking them. At the same time, if you're 145 speed or higher, which is very easy to do with a speed boots, you get another 20%. So you are at a huge multipliers. 36% break effect, plus if you're running a 2-piece break effect here, another 32, that's a total of 68 massive amounts of break effect. This is excellent as well, but for those of you, maybe you have a signature, you have teammates that give a lot of break effect consistently, you can go on to some supportive sets. There are so many. For example, Lushaka, Sunken Seas, you help buff attack for your front character, get some energy regen, Panicany Land of Dreams, buffing kind of sets. You can go with other things like Fleet of Ageless, HP increase, and stuff like that. If you find yourself needing effect hit rate, you can also run Pan Cosmic Commercial Enterprise. This is also pretty decent as well. Overall, I think the easiest is to run a 4-piece Thalia Kingdom of Banditry. For an option, a bit more niche that some people are mentioning, I want to talk about it real quick, is Forge of Kalpagini Lantern. Now this one's a bit trickier because although it gives you speed, which is really nice, and it gives you this break effect of 40%, most likely when you're bringing her into battle, she's already going to have 220%. You already prepared her kit for it, meaning you don't want to rely on this 40% break effect for the most part, pushing it to like 260 or something like that. And relying on fire weakness, unless you're always running with Firefly, is very, very tricky to run, a bit more niche, and she doesn't scale north of break effect other than the 220 threshold for herself, 250 for Iron Cavalry. She doesn't do more damage in that sense. She doesn't scale with more break effect other than the usual break effect stuff. So the 2-piece, what am I focusing on? For Planispheres is probably the trickiest out of all of them. There are a few options. The HP and defense is probably my recommendation by default players for those of you who want her a bit chunkier to survive. Alternatively, you can balance it out by focusing on attack and fire damage bonus if you already have a lot of HP and defense in the subs. Last but not least, of course, is the link rope in the 2-piece over here. And my thought process is break effect is going to be number 1. It gives you a lot of break effect to help you hit certain thresholds. For some reason, if you have more than enough break effect, energy regen is a far distant second. But overall, I think break effect is the path of least resistance. We're going to be talking all about Fugue's signature light cone, Long Road Leads Home. Is it worth it? And if you don't have the resources to pull this one, can you use any other alternatives as well? Now let's go ahead and jump in and talk about the stats. Increase wearer's break effect by 60%. Let me be honest with you, this is a huge luxury. Unless for some reason you are just slapping on a pieces that you haven't even farmed at all without any substat of break effect. Her threshold of 220 to hit is very, very easy, and she doesn't even scale with the more break effect, the more that she buffs and stuff like that. No, it's just a threshold kind of thing. And even with a lot of free-to-play gear, you can already hit it. So this break effect 60% is just really very, for benefits the most lazy people who don't farm gear at all. Other than that, the one thing that is really good about this light cone is the second part over here, where you have increased break damage taken by 18%. Does it work with super break? The answer is yes. So it stacks up to 2 times because Fugue has a double break system where you break the enemy once, they get a reduced toughness of a slight lesser effectiveness of the toughness bar. So you can break them twice, and this allows you to get the double stacks of this 18% that stacks up to twice, which is really the benefit about this signature light cone over here. The question is it worth a limited? My honest thoughts, I don't think so. I don't think it's really worth it. This is like a limited light cone after all, and you will spend quite a lot of resources to get it. At the same time, the next question then is, we have to look at the alternatives in game, because if there's no other alternatives, then you kind of have no choice, right? But thankfully, let's now go into the game engine, and this is where you would see that there are plenty of free-to-play options available for Fugue, and this is my recommendation. So number one, if you have godlike gear, you have your break effect settled down already, you have enough break effect to hit her thresholds, which I think a lot of people might have. In that case, using something like Resolution Shines as Pearls of Sweat will be my preference for any of you longer term players who have very good break effect gear on the right sets as well. This synergizes with a lot of her kit, helping you increase the damage the enemies take, which benefits whether you're playing in Akirion teams, whether you're playing in break teams, whether you're playing in some kind of like break DOT teams. This is universal, very, very good. Only thing is, do you meet the break effect threshold? Chances are, if you played a while, this is likely going to be really good. S5 probably going to be my top pick. However, some of you might not have hit certain thresholds and you just can't be bothered to farm break effect gear for a quote-unquote support. In that case, you have tons of options as well. The best in slot out of all of them free to play, in my opinion, is going to be Solitary Healing. You can get this totally for free from the Herta shop. 40% break effect that you can get, which is huge. Her signature gives you 60, so for whatever laziness that you are looking for, you get a lot of the utility already for those of you who don't want to like min-max and farm and want to meet her thresholds. At the same time, when you break the enemies with her also, you will apply the fire DOT, so you do get some of these refund back and energy when you defeat them after they are broken from Fugue. So that is quite a nice bonus, but this is mainly really useful for the break effect here, the 40% as well. So this is probably my top pick if you don't want to think too much and you don't want to like farm break effect sets. Alternatively, a cheaper alternative, 32% break effect. This is also free to play. For some reason, maybe you don't have enough tickets for Solitary Healing yet. Fermata also gives you the break effect that you're looking for. Frankly speaking, an inferior alternative to Solitary Healing, but for what it's worth, is also usable. And last but not least, of course, is before the tutorial mission starts. I normally don't like to talk about this, but now that we have the ability to claim event Lightcones in the Herta shop, I can finally talk about it more. This is also another technically free-to-play option that you can get. Effect hit rate is not the valuable part. More importantly is the defense reduce enemies as well, so you can get a lot of energy refund to help you burst a lot more. This is of course really great if you are mainly using her as a bit more of your only fire damage dealer. Maybe you don't have Lingsha, you don't have Gallagher that is hitting the enemies, so you're relying a lot on Fugue for the fire application damage dealing that you want to do for her. In this case, this is great for her, giving her the energy refund. If you're using her more as a team support, I think that Resolution Shines as Pearls of Sweat is way better, gives you a way better value for her as well. Some of the other alternatives, and now looking more at the other 5 stars, which is a bit more expensive, one shout out, one honorable mention is definitely Patience is All You Need. I think this is also quite interesting because this allows you to turn her into a DOT character for DOT teams. It's of course Kafka's limited, so not all of you has it. But I think it's worth mentioning that this one increases good amounts of damage for her when she bursts with her out, hit AoE in the instance, gives her a decent amount of speed as well, help with her rotation, as well at the same time helping her proc DOT, which is great if let's say you are using her in like Akirion teams, you need to hit more debuffs and stuff like that. This is also one of the good options available for those of you who have her. If you have this Lightcone, DOT teams for Fugue definitely start to ramp up. You might even use her in place of Jiao Qiu in that slot as well to make like a DOT break kind of teams, which I think it might be possible as well, as long as we have more DOT characters moving forward. So that is like some alternatives, some things to consider. Let's first things first, of course, start off with Super Break 2.0. I really think, and I don't use the word 2.0 lightly, right? 2.0 because I think it's very meta changing. Firstly, you can run a typical team, and we will touch on the alternative in a little bit. So the first team, and let me just like make a double slide here. So first team is the one that everyone is going to be talking about. This is the template that you will see most people saying. One, you can either go with a Ruan Mei and Harmony MC alternative. That's what a lot of people will be telling you. If you don't have Ruan Mei, you can go for Fugue as well. If you are planning to migrate out of Harmony MC into Remembrance MC, Fugue and Ruan Mei work really well together, giving you a lot of accessibility options. But very importantly, wherever you go, whether it's Harmony MC, Fugue, Ruan Mei, you can't really go wrong with the 3 of them in a double kind of like support kind of category. The question then becomes your last few slots. Lingsha obviously is going to be great for utility and probably is best in slot. Your other options is Gallagher and possibly even Ho Ho in the last slot too. so that you are able to give more energy to the rest of your team when they need it, more attack damage if you don't have either of them built and you don't really need so much break. The one thing that is great about Fugue and Lingsha or Gallagher is you have a lot of fire application in your team composition, which actually gives rise to the arrival of a very strong character like Rapper. Because previously, if you had like a triple fire team with, for example, Firefly over here, you might not be guaranteed that Firefly is the one that is going to break, which means that you might have some kind of competition between themselves, each unfight themselves for the final breaking bar. But in this case, Rapper's Imaginary offers you a very nice diversification out of all of them. Of course, you have colorless breaking from Fugue, but one thing to note is, of course, the effectiveness of that toughness breaking is reduced when you're not hitting the correct element. So Rapper shines really through in this category and probably is where she will begin to start to outperform characters like Firefly, because she attacks very often as well. She's very, very mobile. Her out allows her to move very, very quickly too. I think Rapper is quite strong, but you will see a lot of team compositions with Firefly together too. And at the same time, other characters that will shine through is characters like Boot Hill, because break scaling really would like a break buffer. Fugue offers that. You can even run the very, very popular Super Break Kimiko as well, as a proxy for Firefly. For those of you who don't have her, this gives you a lot of fire breaking chance for Kimiko because of that double break that a character like Fugue offers. So traditionally, you might not build Himiko for break, you might just run her with like purely attack, because all you're just looking for is that super break with for Harmony MC. But now with the double toughness breaking, some people might actually consider building a bit more break on Himiko, especially if you want to proc the fire break bar on the enemies as well. One last option in this category is going to be, of course, Xue, who is also a break scaling character that is really very nice, does a lot of damage herself too. So this is pretty much going to be the template. Because it's very confusing, what is the difference between Ruan Mei as well as Fugue? And as always, I will be very, very unbiased, just logical comparisons between the two of them. So first things first, between two of these two characters right now, they are very similar. They play into a lot of break teams, they play into a lot of super break teams as well. But in order to understand the difference, you need to know that there are two types of break damage currently in the game. The first is the oldie obvious break, which is when you break the toughness bar, you do an instance of damage based off your break effect, whether it's fire break, whether it's imaginary break, blah blah blah. That is the first instance. And more recently, since Panacony and ever since the arrival of Harmony MC, we have this new thing called a super break damage. Not new anymore, it's kind of aged already a while. Super break damage is when the enemy is broken, you hit the enemy and it scales off of the weakness toughness breaking ability instead of the instance of break effect that your character has. So two very different categories, and once you break it down to these two and you think about it, it becomes more clear, and let's talk about it. Ruan Mei, want to make a guess which category does she fall into? In honest opinion, comparing both of them, if let's say you were to give her one category, Ruan Mei is actually more of a super break enabler rather than a break enabler. And why do I say that? If you think about the nature of super break, is the enemies want to be broken for a longer period of time so that you can keep doing more instances of damage. And Ruan Mei is actually counterproductive to break focused characters, other than the fact that maybe you get some break effect buffing here and there. At the end of the day, break is all about the instance of break, and you want to break that instance as much as you can. So comparing these two characters, Ruan Mei is more focused on super break herself in her overall kit, but the problem with Ruan Mei is she does not enable super break. She's a catalyst for super break teams, but she does not enable them, because having her alone without any form of other characters with super break does not make her work, which is why it's very fundamental to have characters like Harmony MC, which act as the enabler for break teams, at the same time buffing you for break teams, enabling you for super break teams, because she actually provides the instance of super break damage for your team, or playing with other characters who have innate super break in their kit. For example, units like Rapper, for example, units like Firefly. All these characters have some sort of innate super break in them. So that is a very, very important distinguishing factor that is blinding a lot of people. I think not many people are considering the true weakness of Ruan Mei in break teams is that she is relying heavily on an enabler. So now, going on to the flip side, now we talked a bit about Ruan Mei already, and I want to help you understand Fugue's overall kit. Fugue is an enabler for super break, and at the same time, she buffs up break damage insanely. So she is an enabler for Super Break where you have any character you designate has the Super Break ability. You help weakness, toughness breaking, everything. So she skills very nicely in break effect. She buffs break effect as well. At the same time, she allows you to have 2 toughness breaking. So she's an enabler for Super Break, not a massive catalyst because they only get broken once. They don't have as long as a duration. At the same time, she is a very, very massive catalyst and buffer for a break character to help you break enemies faster, which in turn also enables Super Break. So this is the pinnacle of a break character that you are looking for because she plays into both and she's very independent, doesn't need an enabler, doesn't need a catalyst, and she will form the crux of future break teams moving forward, which is why I think she is break 2.0. She's an upgrade on both Harmony MC as well as Ruan Mei, specifically for break-focused teams, super break teams moving forward, because she is an enabler, she is a buffer in her overall kit. So this is just a very special quick dedication section to help you distinguish the 2 characters. Let's round things up now with our summary. Free-to-play pool value overall. With great free-to-play Lightcones, you don't even need her signature and many good free-to-play options. Great team compositions that are very, very cheap to run, scaling up all the way to a very expensive team roster, as well as working really well at E0 base copy. Overall, in my opinion, Fugue offers tremendous value for players, wanting the flexibility to play into future characters in Super Break teams, being so versatile in her overall kit. Especially if you don't have Ruan Mei, her value definitely shoots up. As an enabler for Super Break team composition, her value does rise the day that Harmony MC moves on to other roles. At this point, I highly recommend you check out these 2 other videos we have on the channel which I think you might like. And thank you guys again so much for watching. See you in the next video.